Hi, students. Welcome to another episode of Women of FHSS. Joining us today, we have Jaclyn Day. Welcome, Jaclyn.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks again so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I was hoping you could introduce yourself to those who are listening and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Jaclyn Day. I am an undergraduate student of the psychology program, graduated class of 2010. I don't want to admit how many years it's been since I started the psych program at BYU, but came in as kind of a traditional undergrad. Didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my life. And it's funny because my father told me, he's like, Jaclyn, it's really hard to get a job with a psych degree. And I was like, oh, it's okay, Dad. I'm just going to get married and have kids. So it doesn't matter what degree I get anyways. And lo and behold, I met professors that really just inspired me and pushed me and made me realize I loved research. And so I started becoming very more proactive with my education and much more engaged to the point where even now I'm looking at pursuing a PhD in the future. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm grateful for my education at BYU, for the opportunities it opens, and I'm grateful to be here and talk to you guys about what's going on and how things kind of shake out in one way or another. So
fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And I have your bio and it's going to be posted on our website, but can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now currently, what your current role is?
Yeah, so my current role is I'm the annual giving manager at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. So I've been doing fundraising since actually my time at BYU. It was my student job. And would you believe it, but fundraising has a lot to do with psychology. So I do feel like I use my degree in a lot of different ways, but I've been doing that since about 2007, so 14 years now.
That's amazing. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So Jaclyn, just to get us kick-started on some of the things that we wanted to talk about today, I was wondering if you could start us through this undergraduate experience that you had. What were some things that you wish that you would have known as an undergrad when it came to preparing for life after college?
And it's so hard to imagine life after college. When I was in the thick of it, it was kind of I thought I had my life planned out, from being a kid and growing up in the church and everything. And then it felt like the Lord kept opening different doors saying, no, you're going this way, not that way. So in my instance, it started, so I picked psychology because like I said, I didn't know what to do with my life. And I was sitting in one of the introduction classes and it was Dr. Brown. So he was the head of the division at the time. He said that you should be actively pursuing opportunities, that you can't just sit and wait for things to come to you. You should be actively pursuing. And if you want to be successful, you need to be looking for opportunities to engage and to set yourself apart. And so at the time I thought, I'm going to be a TA for my 121 class, which was taught by D. Higley, who's still there. And he still teaches 121. And so since it was such a large class, I went up to him one day to set myself apart because I'm like, I'm going to take this to heart. And I said, hey, do you teach any of the other classes? And he said, yes, I teach primate behavior. What? Monkeys? Really? But I took it. I'm like, no, I'm going to take it because it's a small class and it's going to set me apart. And lo and behold, that opened more doors. And so I think the best advice I can give right now is that don't be afraid to be proactive in opportunities. That opportunity led to a great mentor. I fell in love with research. I met my husband is actually my research partner, and he and I were in the class together and we argued the entire semester because I thought boys' opinions were dumb and I thought more women should be speaking up. So we spent the whole semester arguing. And so my professor said, oh, I think you guys would make great lab partners. And so we actually did go on and do research together, but I went up to him and said, I want to do research. I went to other people and said, I'm interested in your topic. Can you help me understand this more? And there were even other classes where I said, I'm trying to understand, in this instance, it was evolution. I went to a professor who I knew was kind of not anti-evolution, but very much on the opposite spectrum from a lot of the professors I was having in research. And I said, hey, I'd like to get more perspective on like how you view things. Could you help us in this writing course, maybe look at some of these topics? And so he spent a good chunk of that course providing almost an antithesis to what I was hearing in my other classes, which really helped me learn my critical thinking skills to really form what I wanted, my opinions, and what my, I guess in some ways, beliefs would be. So, I mean, the best thing like I said, be proactive, talk to your professors, go look for opportunities. If you're not sure what an opportunity is, just go up and say, hey, you're interesting. What do you do? And how can I be a part of it? So.
Sounds like you're incredibly curious, right? These insatiable curiosity, and that's what definitely helped you. I'm
Yes.
sure it's helping you in your current role as well.
Yeah, so being a good fundraiser, you really get to learn a lot about what people do over a lifetime, and the most successful fundraisers are the best listeners. And so you need that thirst and curiosity for what people have done. And I have so many stories of what people have done over a life that I would never have considered. I had one person who was an engineer who studied pancake mix for Johnson & Johnson. And like, he spent a good 10 years of his career doing pancake and batter and, cake mixes, because it was the 70s. And so they're trying to improve the shelf life of cake mixes. And I mean, I would never think of that as a career route, but here he was talking to me about it. So absolutely, curiosity will serve you well in any field, no matter where you go.
And that's something that I feel it's inherent, but it's also something that I feel you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So one of the things that you and I were going to talk about today are what are the things that you did as a college student that helped open up future opportunities for you, and maybe how did your coursework kind of help along that way? And it seems to me like curiosity is one of those things that you also learned to be better with. Would you say that that's true?
Absolutely. I don't know if I would consider myself incredibly proactive in my education prior to Dr. Brown's statement of, you want to be successful, you need to search for opportunities. I think that was the first time something clicked for me. Not that I was a bad student or anything like that. I was just okay with being okay. I wasn't passionate yet. And then that really kind of led me to say, ask questions. And then that curiosity, I found something I really love to do. So
that's so great. So other than you had some really incredible mentorship opportunities, and it sounds like you had some really great research opportunities, were there other things that you did that helped open up doors for you?
I was thinking about it. So one of the things I did during my time at BYU was I was a BYU telefund student. So, the student callers, sometimes you hear about them. At the time, it was the best pay. And I was in BYU's marching band. And so I had a lot of time constrictions during the fall semester because BYU band takes up a lot of time. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but it takes up a lot of time. So I saw a posting, and I needed to make money because I did not come from the wealthiest family. We were comfortable, but not the wealthiest. And I was tasked with paying for my own education. And so I saw this listing, and all you had to do was talk on the phone. You got to pick your hours in the evening, and it was the highest pay on campus at that point. And so I was like, oh, I can talk to anybody. That's not a big deal. And I really enjoyed the job, and I stuck with it for 3 years. And it actually is what led me to my career, because when graduation hit, some different things happened, and it was just like, oh my goodness, I need to have a job, and I need to have a job like now. And so here I was with 3 years of fundraising experience right out of college. And so when I was applying for jobs, it was like, instead of saying I have no experience, but I have great classes, it's, oh, look, I have experience in what I'm asking for. And it just led to a great career that I wasn't expecting at all. I was ready to go to graduate school, and that just was not in the plans for us at that time. And so I would say take advantage of BYU's work opportunities. There are some really interesting and great jobs that can supplement your educational and classes and that sort of thing. And again, it really comes back to, yes, I know everyone tells you have a 10-year plan, have a 5-year plan. Personally, I find the best opportunities are if I'm looking one step ahead and if I'm just actively curious and engaged in what I'm doing. And in this instance, my student job led to my career. So
I was reading this book recently by Cal Newport called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And his premise for that book, from Steve Martin's kind of parody is you just have to get really good at what you're doing sometimes in order for opportunities to open up. And I really like that because it kind of debunks this passion premise that you have to absolutely love what you do, and then you end up falling in love with what you do. But it seems to me like in your experience that as you were doing that job for BYU, that your career capital that you gained was exactly what you needed to qualify you for something that you're really good at and that you really love. And so that hard work and that, kind of tenacious undertaking of doing it all, because I feel like our students are doing it all right now. They're paying for their own education. They're enrolled in 18 credits. They're working full time and they're trying to do all these other things. So
yeah, don't miss that.
I know. Well, that's amazing. Looking back, what are some of the benefits that you've received either personally or professionally from your working experiences?
It's been an interesting career. So like I said, so things didn't pan out right after graduation. I got married the day after graduation. Would not recommend that because it's very stressful doing finals, your endowments, and then getting married in the same week. It's a little stress. So anyway, so things did not get wrapped up in a perfect little box. A lot of things fell through. The opportunities for graduate school for me needed to be put on hold. My husband was trying to focus on it. And I was like, okay, well, one of us should probably get a job and make money. So I put my resume all out there and got accepted into New York, one of the schools there to take a job. And I met my first boss, and her name was Dawn. And it's interesting because I don't think I would have run across her in any other way, but she really took me under her wing and taught me how to be a professional working woman. It was something I don't know if I had really seen. My mother had worked when I was a kid, but not necessarily in a career. She worked a lot of different jobs and a lot of jobs she enjoyed. But my first boss was the one to really coach me on like how to be a professional woman. And especially when I got pregnant. So I got pregnant 2 years into this job. I'm just like, how do you be pregnant and manage a job? And she had just gone through the entire process, her and another coworker. And so they coached me through the entire thing. This is how you ask for it. Don't be afraid to ask for these time off. If you're thinking about breastfeeding, this is what you're legally, allowed to do, and you're protected in these ways. So of course I'm going to be encouraging, but I want to coach you in case you enter into future situations to know what legally you are allowed to and, ask for and make sure that you have. And it was just a huge benefit to me to have this, mentor that came in and said, like, let me teach you how to be a working woman. And I mean, even in a field that is pretty friendly towards women employees, there's a lot of women who do fundraising. And it's kind of interesting because at the top, there's not as many women, but at my level and at the intermediate level, there are a lot of women bosses and that sort of thing. So that really helped quite a bit in terms of mentorship. And then along the way, you'll also pick up mentors. I consider my current boss a mentor right now, even though I've been doing this for 14 years. And if anything, I'm coaching him on a lot of different things, but he's helping me learn different management styles. He's helping me learn different arts-based style. He's very well educated. And so I'm learning different things from him that I haven't seen, different perspectives and that sort of thing. So I think really when you're looking for a good mentor, any one of your good bosses is going to end up being a mentor for you in one way, shape, or form, whether that's from a professional standpoint, whether that's from a personal growth standpoint, or anything in between.
And I'm so glad you said that, because the conversation that I keep having with some of the women during these interviews is, does mentorship have to come from someone who looks and acts like you would want to be? Right. And so
I don't think so.
Yeah, and it doesn't. So
no.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
And I think it really comes down to someone who's invested in your success. So for example, I've been in my job I'm about to hit year 4. My boss came in about a year and a half ago. And so he and I sat down, and from what I had gathered, I could tell he was a very supportive person. He cared more about the employee than necessarily, I want to drain this out of you. You'll come to find there are some bosses who are just, I want to take this out of you because it benefits me. And then you're going to have other bosses who say, holistically, I care about you. Of course, I want you to be successful in your job and I want to keep you in your job, but I want to support you in whatever long range plans you have. So in this instance, I am a university employee under the state system. So one of my benefits is that I can take classes from any of the state schools under the UNC umbrella, and I can do it for free. I can take 3 classes a year. And like I said, my goal is to go back and get my PhD. So now that it's been 8 years since my master's degree, it's been, even longer since my undergrad, I kind of need an academic, reference to be able to pursue a PhD program. And I'm just like, okay, I probably should take some classes to show that, yes, I can still be academic. I'm not over the hill. I know I'm in my 30s and I'm in my mid 30s now, but I can still do some of this, right? But I wanted to use this benefit, which means I had to go talk to my boss about it. And in this instance, as a mentor, he said, and I flat out told him, I don't want to do fundraising forever. I don't want to move up. I have looked at what it takes to be going up, moving forward, and that means frontline portfolio work. And I like my stats, I like my data, and I like my research, and I like behavior. And I don't think my career, if I stay exactly on the track that's traditional, will fit what I'm interested in. So I want to go back to school. I want to take a class, and I want to take advantage of these credits. And for him, it was just a no-brainer. He's like, well, you've shown yourself to be capable as long as it's not influencing your work, which I don't know, personally, I think doing a class at night is pretty easy when you have, 9 to 5 traditional hours. So he was all for it. And so here's a guy who, different religion, different background. He's an arts person. He's in management. He wants to go all the way. I could see him going into being a vice president of, advancement. So a very different career path than I want, who's saying, yes, I understand. I'm probably going to lose you in a couple of years, but I want to support you. I want to support your interests. And I want to make sure you're holistically feeling good about yourself, because I know you'll produce in the end, it's a little selfish because it's like, I know you're going to produce better results for me if you're taking care of yourself and you're able to move forward in a career and not stagnate. So.
And that's what all the research says anyway, right? Mm-hmm. The more self-actualized we become, right, the more producing we become. It's just, It's one of those, not catch-22, that's the wrong word, but it's very cyclical in its nature. So that's incredible that you have such a really valuable mentorship experience. And it sounds like with different areas of your life. I mean, I'm also making the assumption that there are mentors in other areas of your life that have helped you, not just in your professional, but also in your personal. And that mentorship can look so many different ways.
Absolutely. And, you're going to be navigating challenges your entire life. So my son is 8, and so he's elementary age. And one of the things I don't know is, what do you do with a child during the summer when I work full-time during the summer? And so having different people that I've met over my life and in my career as different mentors and friends and colleagues, they've really helped me kind of work through and say like, oh yeah, my kids are older. Let me walk you through, what do you do? And it's been a little nice because I guess one of the upsides of the pandemic is that I've been working from home last summer and I work from home this summer. So I haven't really had to cross that hurdle yet, but knowing that there are people, mentors and colleagues that have gone through it, a lot of them want to help you. I am a fundraiser, so I see very much rose-colored glasses, but I think a lot of people are kind and they want to help you. And if you are a good worker, people are going to want to stick out for you and say like, hey, I want to help you, whether that's trying to figure out how to be a professional woman, how to balance, being a working mom and your home life, or whether that's pursuing a completely different career path. So
it just sounds like you get to go and do very soon. So
I hope so. It's a couple of years away. So like I said, I'm only taking one class at a time. So, but it's changing behavior is my next class. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So just kind of speaking about the fundraising element that you've been involved with for more than a decade, what was your organizational culture like 10 years ago for women and working mothers? And then what does your company do to make, or your organization do to make an effort in supporting your personal and professional goals? You talked a little bit about this really great relationship that you have with your boss, but is there anything else that you would want to share to help prepare women for those conversations?
Absolutely. Like I said, colleagues are a great resource, especially making friends with people who have kids slightly older than yours because they've been through it and they've been through it recently. So they can explain to you like the different FMLA laws, what your company's, policy is if you do get pregnant, what pay is and that sort of thing. HR can be helpful, but sometimes it's nice to have a colleague that has been through it and says like, oh yeah, these are the hoops. These are the forms you need to sign. Just as a heads up, they're going to ask you to do this like the week before you go out. And of course, you never know when you're going to have the baby. So plan to have it done like a month in advance in case you go out early. That actually happened to me with my second child, my daughters too. And so one of my coworkers who had a baby a year before was like, just plan for all these different things because each company is very different in their policies and their procedures. I know we have some national standards of what you can and can't expect, but my Guilford experience, which was my previous job versus my current job, was completely different. And so I would definitely talk to people, check into that, especially if you know someone who's had a kid recently. In terms of changing work environments, like I said, there's a lot of women in the different roles and positions in fundraising. And surprisingly, you don't see as many women in the executive roles. I think that's starting to change slowly. For example, my graduate school, they just announced the equivalent of the top fundraising position is a Black woman. So that was really exciting to see. My last boss, my boss's boss, was a gay Black man. And so that was exciting to see as well, because you didn't really see that diversity. It was usually don't judge me for this, but it was usually old white men. So, but you're starting to see that proliferation in this last 10 years of different voices and different opinions and different backgrounds becoming all the way up to the executive level, which is really exciting. So I would say my field is very family friendly and women friendly. The other thing with the pandemic to ask for is talking about work-life balance. And we've discovered that, surprise, work from home isn't so terrible. So, for example, I had a situation come up where my childcare fell through with my son. And so I needed to start picking him up after school, which was about 3:30. And if you're supposed to be at the desk from 9 to 5, that doesn't quite work. And so I talked to my boss and I say, let's try this on a temporary basis, but can I work from home from 3:30 to 5? And, I'll be on different meetings and that sort of thing. And lo and behold, after a couple months, it worked out, and it worked out really well because I appreciated it because I spent more time with my son because he was around with me. I didn't lose any work opportunities because I know how to balance my time. And it actually saved me money because I didn't have to pay for after school care, which that adds up over time. Like if you're not prepared for that, it is not cheap. I spend a fair amount on childcare because you want quality childcare, and that's not something you want to scrimp on. And so coming out of this pandemic, we have so many more resources now. People know how to use Zoom. People know how to use Microsoft Teams. People understand how to reach each other yes, there was conversations via email, but it seems so much more like, do we really need this meeting, or can we have this conversation, online in a different medium? So especially as you students, as you're going out and you're taking jobs, be sure to ask. And again, this comes back to being proactive. Be proactive about culturally, what can you expect? Are there opportunities for flexible work? What kind of creative ways has their work environment incorporated post-pandemic opportunities for work-life balance? And I think that's something critical that, especially when you first graduate, you're so focused on salary, like, oh my gosh, I have student bills, I need to pay things, I need a salary. And so you focus on that, but really look at jobs that have work-life balance, that are offering flexible opportunities for you and good health benefits. Oh my goodness. I'm at a point in my life where I think health benefits trumps salary, quite honestly. Like I'll take a low paying job if I get better health benefits, quite frankly. So.
And I'm really glad that you're talking about this because I think something that happens, and this happened to me, so maybe it's just me, but with students is that when they're going out for these jobs and they don't necessarily have something right immediately after graduation, sounds like you have a similar experience, that they're willing to just kind of take whatever comes their way, when in actuality, it makes me wonder, it's always like, do I need to put bread on my table, or do I have time to figure out if these organizations are going to help me, right?
Yes. Sorry, Lindsay, I lost you for a little bit. I think my internet connection froze. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I can ask this question again.
Yes.
So I find that when students graduate, they become a little more desperate in their job seeking, and that they kind of take the first thing that comes. And sometimes you have to, right? You have to put bread on the table. You kind of settle a little bit. But I'm curious what advice you would give to somebody as they are exploring those organizations that are going to kind of meet some of those other demands.
Mm-hmm. And I think it comes back to, you think at graduation, oh my gosh, I need everything wrapped up perfectly in this beautiful box with a perfect ribbon in order to be successful. And it's okay if it's not. I think that's actually something, so I've managed college students over the years in different roles. And I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I give them, is that it's okay if not everything's lined up within the first 3 months of work. Or if you say, oh my gosh, I need to pivot, and I need to pivot what I expect for my career because, life has some different demands for me. In this instance, I would say be patient. Yes, I would probably say make sure you have a job that will provide you financial stability, because I'm not an advocate for, just waiting for a passion and waiting for the perfect project or waiting for the perfect job, because they never land in your lap. I hate to break it to you, they just don't. But if you are proactively looking and you make sure that you don't just settle, you'll be fine in the long run. So my New York job that was fundraising, that actually took me about 3 or 4 months to land after graduation. And even then, when I got the job, she gave me a moving bonus, but my moving bonus didn't kick in until we got there. And so we were so broke, we had to haul everything in a 4x8 U-Haul trailer on the back of a 4-door Saturn. So here's this little car trailing a 4x8 trailer up the Wasatch Mountains across the country. And it maxed out at 35 miles an hour as it's going up the mountains, because it was not made to haul little trailers like that, but that's literally all we could afford. So I would say be willing to work, but don't give up. Keep looking, keep being proactive, keep networking, keep making connections, keep putting yourself out there. Eventually something is going to stick, and be flexible. So in this instance, like I said, I turned to fundraising. I said, I had all this experience, why not? And I think it's really helped me in the long run, because like I said, I've put graduate school on the back burner and getting a PhD, mostly so I could support my husband as he was kind of going through the process, and he's almost done. He's in his postdoc now. Like I said, I married my research partner, so he went on to go do research. But one of the things that's helped me is it's kind of helped me realize, one, if I really want to do this, which absolutely, I'm not doing this just because I don't know what else to do with my life. No, I've seen the process. I've seen what my husband's gone through. It's not pretty, but it's something that I think I would enjoy. And even then, my career has kind of helped me focus on, what would I even want to study? And in this instance, seeing pro-social behavior, seeing kindness, seeing generosity. I'm so fascinated by that. My job right now is, how do you get the most people to give? And what I'm passionate about isn't how you get people to give. I think what's fascinating is, why do people give? Why do people give to causes they care about? Why do they give to strangers? Because at the end of the day, you're giving to a stranger. You're saying, take my hard-earned money, go run with it, and go do something with it that I can't even imagine. And at School of the Arts, it's amazing, because I've got drama students, I've got dance students, I've got film students, I've got music students, and they're all doing things in design and production, and they're all doing things that I would never have imagined for my life. I never imagined you could make a career doing set design. And yet I've got alumni who are on Broadway and they paint for set designs for a living. And it's incredible, because they have these sets that are bigger, these scene drops that are bigger than my house that they're painting, and that's their career. It's fascinating what kindness can do and opportunities could do. So here I am 14 years in, and really my career has kind of helped me say, I know I've always wanted to do this, but now I feel like I have a sense of what that actually is. And having watched my husband go through it, I kind of feel more confident. I'm like, I know the process now. I feel like I can do it. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. That's probably a better term for putting it, but why not? I mean, why does, and that's something I've learned as a fundraiser, is that we're afraid of the word no. We're afraid that no means no forever. And that is not true. Sometimes no means no for right now, but that doesn't mean you can't do it later on, or you can't pursue something later on. So I think if I've really come to appreciate my career and having to put some things on hold, is that it's okay to put things on hold sometimes. Sometimes it's okay to say, not now, but yes later, because I'm entering a point in my time where I'm so close to saying yes. And I think I'm going to be so much more prepared than if I had gone straight from college. Just for me personally, that's not to say no student should ever go straight from undergrad to graduate school. I think some students, it's perfect. It makes great sense. They are really needed. I see in my husband's lab, neuroscience lab, there are so many more women than even when he started the program. And that is amazing to see. And so if you're getting a yes right now, I think that's great. Go do it. And if you're kind of worried and you're saying, I feel like the answer is no, and I'm afraid that it will never happen, be okay, like study it out, search it out, and think about it. And know that sometimes no doesn't mean no forever. It just means no right now. But later might be a better time for you.
I love, love, love that advice. Thank you so much. Jaclyn, as we're wrapping up, I was wondering if there's anything else that you feel would empower our women students to pursue whatever it is that they choose to post-graduation, whether it's grad school or staying at home or part-time or full-time employment.
And it really comes down to, don't be afraid and embarrassed by your passion. If your passion is being a stay-at-home mom, and that's where you feel like you can use your skills best, and that's what's going to bring you gratification, don't apologize for it. That bothers me so much at church when the stay-at-home moms always apologize to me because I'm a working mom. They're like, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I guess I don't really do anything. And that drives me bonkers because they do so many things. And I know so many women that draw such satisfaction from being a stay-at-home mom. So don't be afraid of that. On the flip side, if you feel that being a working mom is what's going to bring you balance, and I'll be honest, for me personally, I think it helps me be a better mom just because my time is condensed. And so when I'm there, I have to be present. I only have so much time in the day. And so this hour, I need to be present because that's all I get. So for me personally, that's what works well. So I would say, like I said, be okay with where you are. Don't be embarrassed by your passion. Don't apologize for your passion. And if your passion takes a little bit of a detour, don't be afraid of it, and don't be a failure. There's a lot of life left to live. And that's something I'm learning too, is, like I said, I'm not that old. And I'm starting to make friends with people in their 50s beyond parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. And I talk to these women and I see all the things they accomplish, and it's just like, when you're 20, you think 50 is like the end of the road. But now I'm getting older and I'm just like, oh my gosh, 50 feels like it's going to be a peak for me. And I'm excited for it because I really do think, if I can get on this track, and I really hope so, I'm determined to do so, that there are so many more accomplishments waiting for me, and that I don't have to have everything solved and I don't have to have everything accomplished by the time I'm 30, because surprise, I didn't do that. So
I think that's a very powerful note to end on. Thank you so much for your time today, Jaclyn. And I'm so excited about the message that you shared with our students. So many great things that I think will be really empowering for our women to hear. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.